Greetings, God of Gold is back again with another Hearts of Iron 4 video for you today. I do, again, apologize for any inconvenience from before. I know it's been a long wait. For those of you who have waited, which I'm sure there was many of you, thank you for waiting, and why don't we begin? Today's topic will be on focus trees for any region that we're going to make today. Now, I will be using an example country, of course, because this country doesn't have a unique focus tree. Each country, major country, or secondary, I should say, has a focus tree in itself. These are designed strictly to allow for the proper use of helping you make the country more playable. Now, decisions are also accompanied with this, along with national spirits, ministers, and ideas. But of course, not all the countries have them. It depends on if it's a new country. It depends on the setup of the portraits. It also depends on the effects that give it. Now, if it doesn't have like a portrait or an icon, it's just going to come up blank, generic, or question mark. So keep that in mind. So without further ado, today I will be using the mod that we created before, which is a test, as the example. Now, we need to pick a country that we're going to work on. Now, it could be any country that you want. It doesn't have to be stringent. But first, before you do anything, these are the files or subfolders in this mod file that you'll need. First things first. Also, I forgot to mention, if you guys want to learn how to do a mod or how to create a mod like I did right here, I'll leave a link to that either in the description or a tag in the video. Don't worry, you should see it. So without further ado, let's begin. The first file or folder that you're going to need is common. Common is where, as you might not know, if you don't know, this is where much of the coding is. Now, there are codings in other places like history or map, but common, I think, by far has the most. Then, what you're going to do is you're going to create another folder inside common called National Focus. So, what this will do is it'll cause you to run the file in-game, and this is the directory that the game runs on based on its engine. Now, this is where text files are usually stored. Now, how do you make one? Well, there's two ways. You can just make a blank one, but of course you have to follow a stringent way on how to make it. I would personally recommend going into, I have a bookmark here that helps me with all my mods and stuff, like ranging anywhere from Minecraft to Gmod to Victoria to Hearts of Iron, Crusader Kings, etc. These helped me a lot. So what you're going to do to start all this off is first you're going to go into the main directory. If you don't know what that directory is, it's users, then your username, then you go to like Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Hearts of Iron 4, something like that. There's many tutorials online as well that show you that, or you can just look it up on an article. It's up to you. So the first thing you're going to need is you go under Common and you go to National Focus. These ones are going to have a whole array of different kinds of unique focus trees. I think by far one of, or if not the largest, has to be the Soviet tree, which is rightfully so, because this was from No Step Back, which was the expansion that added a shit ton of things. So that really, really is a big tree. So I would not recommend using the Soviet tree. Granted, I know people early on when the game first came out first used this tree, but this tree is just way too big to use, and it might be confusing, not going to lie to you. Now, we need a basic template. We need something to help kickstart the focus. So you look through the files until you find a decent one, or at least a decent template. One that doesn't have so many triggers and stuff on it. Now, you could also use the generic one. The generic one, actually, I think is probably, where is it? The generic one, I'm going to have to say, is very helpful. But keep in mind, if you change generic stuff in here, it's going to change for all the countries that don't have focus trees. Which is also kind of why I try to stay away from this. But, I mean, again, if you find a good country thing and you find out that certain things like Germany, for example, is not usable, even though it can be, it's too complex. I know I kind of keep jumping around here, but the only true way to know is you'd have to search through this on your own. So first, what we'll do is I'll use the Danish one to make it easier. I, again, apologize for that. So we go back into national focus, and let's say we want to make a focus that is not used yet. So why don't we make one based off of, let's see. Why don't we use one for a country that is not used, which honestly there is a bunch of them, so it's going to be a little hard for me at the moment. I was thinking maybe let's try Ireland. So Ireland's focus tree is going to be a little different than what we had. Now, I don't think this has a focus tree as far as I remember. But if you are not sure, you can always just go into base game, common, national focus. And as you can see, I'm looking in the I category. There is only 3 I's. There is no Ireland. Okay. So we're safe in that department. So we're going to call this the Irish focus, which this is the ID that it's going to fall under. Of course, these are search filters. These are also optional to help improve your overall tree. And under completion award, if you don't want any of these effects, which I assume you wouldn't because this is from the Danish thing, you can just clear this out. Also, don't forget brackets. I forgot to mention, because if you have one bracket that's missing here, that's going to cause a fatal error that could either crash or break the game, especially with a country focus tree like this. So let's just say for the first search filter, why don't we make it political? Now, this is where the search filters are. Again, this isn't like a super requirement. It's not essential to the overall body, but it does help if you want to look it up in the search bar in-game. It's very helpful. Bypass and available, I mean, they're in a way like triggers. AI will do, you can do like factors, for example. So like, for example, where it says AI will do, let me just try to find an example very quick. Here we are. So you can do factors such as like 1, but the AI factors, by the way, are what is the likelihood that the AI will actually do this. So why don't we just put it 1 for now, because 1 means it's more likely to do it. Of course, you can also do 10 or maybe 0.5, although I think I'm just going to keep it simple for now. That's just the AI programming for it. Now, bypass, of course, you can put something like Ireland doesn't exist, basically. So, like, it needs to exist. Now, if you want to know more about the triggers and whatnot of how to mod the stuff, I'll also leave links in the description down below. This website is very helpful. If you scroll to the very bottom of the page, you get to see all the different modding necessities you need. So with that in mind, that really helps. Now, let's say this can bypass if Ireland doesn't exist. Now, how we're going to go about doing that is this is the triggers that we need. These triggers would be designed specifically to ensure that it works, it's functional, and it doesn't cause much problems. Now, let's say, here it is. So why don't we try IRE equals left bracket. You press enter twice. Then you do the right bracket. Then you go in between where it is, or if there's no line, you can just do enter, tab. Tab really helps a lot. Then you can just use this one. It says exist yes, or exist equals yes. So this means if, but in this case, if it's no, that means this whole thing is going to get bypassed. That means it might fail, basically. So like the bypass is a fail-safe system, whereas if a certain trigger or a certain thing right here is met, which this is a trigger, then this whole focus tree won't work, basically. I know we are missing the ID and stuff up here. I'm just walking you through how this works. Available, of course, we can just do this. Yes, so Ireland must exist for this focus to exist. If Ireland does not exist, and if you're playing as it or something like that, it won't work. Everything will get wiped, basically. But of course, you can put your own trigger if you want, depending on what you want. Again, it's in the link in the description down below. We also have positions here, the X and Y axis. The X is horizontal, the Y is vertical. I'm sure you guys are familiar with them. If I do 1, it's going to keep going down. You could also do 0.5s, but I would recommend highly against doing that because the whole tree could look like a mess. I would just keep it to single full-on numbers rather than just decimals. So let's get started. I'm just going to put this X as, actually, you know what? I'll leave it at 3, just so that we can see it better. Mutually exclusive, again, this is completely optional because we're only making one focus today. Also, this is a handy trick. In order to prevent mutually exclusive from ever showing up on here, what you do is you hold down Shift and hit 3. That makes a comment mark. What this does is it comments the code out, preventing it from ever working. It's too like a failsafe, but it's also something that helps prevent any breaking. Now, unless if you have another focus to connect with it, I would recommend doing that. You need at least one of these. Now, you can put as many as you want, so long as the line is relative, basically, like what I did. Okay? Now, if you do something like, if you want to comment this whole focus out, you can just hold down your mouse, hold down Alt, and drag. Then you can just hold down Shift, 3. That means the entire focus will not work. It is completely commented out. Make sense? Okay. Hope that helped you. Now let's get started on the ID and maybe the graphical sprite of it. Or, you know what? Tell you what. If you guys want the graphical sprite of a focus for another tutorial, comment down below, subscribe, and watch my post, okay? If you want that, let's try to get this to a certain amount of likes, and I'll do that for you guys, okay? Alright. Now, why don't we call this, the ID, by the way, use country tag. I mean, you could technically use whatever you want, so long as it's underscored and connected, but I would do country tag underscore blah, 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 blah. So, like, for example, this case, Ireland, we can call it Emerald Isle, which is the historical nickname or alias of that land. Now, some people call it something else entirely, which I'm not sure. I mean, that's probably the most common thing I've heard. For GFX, we can do something again, like GFX, focus, and then we can do something like IRE underscore Emerald Isle. Now this one I'm going to leave lowercase, but again, this will be for next tutorial, question mark, because again, comment down below, do you guys want me to do this? If so, please let me know, okay? Because I can't know if you guys don't comment. Anyway, now that we got a basic setup, why don't we put this as is in the localization? How we would incorporate the localization here is really simple. And we already have localization here, right? So I'm going to do localization, or you can just drop it in here too, but I would just English or whatever language you're using. Now you can copy another focus template if you want, but in this case, I'm going to show you how to do a YML very quick. So you're going to do new text document. They're going to do something like new focus underscore L underscore English dot YML. Then it'll show you rename. Do you want to change this? Because it'll change the name of the extension and the setup of the file. So you do yes, and you're all set. So you go to new focus, and before you do anything in this folder, there's two things. You should do L underscore English or whatever language you're using. And then you do basically what I just did. You hit enter, space 1. Now you're all set. But there's another thing. Where it says encoding, UTF-8 bombing. If you do not encode this to UTF-8 bombing, you will have this error. Granted, it'll still work, but if you don't do this, and if you keep it to something else, this is going to break, basically. Or at the very least, it won't break, but it might cause, like, a nuisance error in your log. Just a warning. So let's do this. So we copy the ID. One will be desk or description. Now, what you can also do is hold down Control, and you can select multiple lines at once. This is what I do. It's very easy for me. Now, you don't have to put the number after the colon mark. I know sometimes you can do that and it still works, but I would recommend not doing that because it can affect the outcome of the focus if, like, it's not replaced. So get rid of that, do one space, and then you do two quotations. Now you can put anything you want in the description so long as it ends in, I guess, a period or exclamation or question mark. So it could be something like, we are the Emerald Island of Europe. Let's make ourselves better. Something like that. I mean, you can literally put anything you want here. This is purely an example. And where this is the title, of course, all you have to do is put Emerald Isle. And you're all set. Now, once that's done, you can do one or two things. So once this launcher, of course, you have open, I'm going to disable my other mod that I'm working on because it could cause errors. And I will get this going for you. Oh, and I forgot, I use a nudger shortcut to help me out. Okay, so it looks like we're also having some strategic region error. this one is causing issues pertaining to, I guess, the Caucasus region, which is bizarre because I've never really tampered with it as far as I can remember. Let me see. So why don't we do... I'm going to fix this very quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I do apologize for this. So, in order for me to prevent any more disasters, I may be forced to relinquish some of the errors. I'll cut here for now, and I will finish up later. Alrighty, so we are back, and now let's test the focus just to make sure it works. As you know, we localized it, and we have the code all set up. If you need to, please rewind if you are not sure what to do. Now, let's try Ireland, and we'll see if the focus tree works. There you have it. And there's our description. That's dusk right there. And that's the title. Now, that will conclude this video for right now. I, again, apologize for the interruption. But if you guys want to see a separate tutorial on how to do focus icons, I should have it, I believe, might be on my channel. Let me just take a quick look. Oh no, I just have, oh no, I do have focus icons. Never mind. I made so many tutorials, it's very hard to keep track of. But go to one of my previous ones. Thank you for watching episode 7 now of my tutorial series. I hope this helped you, and best of luck to modding. Have a good day. Gotta Gold is out.
United 93, that traffic view is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370. Negative contact, we're looking United 93. Somebody call, please. United 93, verify 350. United 93, verify your level 350. United 93, verify your level 350. United 93, Cleveland. United 93, Cleveland.